Welcome to another episode of the Screen Addicts podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Steven the Animal Sosa.
And I'm your other co-host, Chris. 'Tis merely a flesh wound, Viegas.
Well, that's good. How's it going, man?
It's going good, man. How are you?
Pretty good. Pretty good. I'm just a bit traumatized from some of these videos that Sonia has been sending us in our family group chat, which is pretty much leading us to the main topic tonight. Basically, Madison, our daughter, Mad Dog, who has been a guest on the show, moved down to Lakeland. And Lakeland apparently has a very high alligator population.
Ooh.
And yeah, and dude, I hate them. They freak me out. I see nothing but and now that she sends us these videos, she's sending them to Madison mostly as like a warning, saying, "Oh, look what could possibly happen. Look what could happen when you go this far down to the water in this area." Well, I don't think it's really having much of an effect on Madison, but it's damn sure having an effect on me. And I'm like, "Oh my God, that's terrible." And so now I see them on TikTok. I see them on the algorithm has found me. The algorithm has found me, I should say. And so it's just all over the place. And it got me thinking about a topic tonight that pertains to animal attacks. And I know we've done stuff with animals. We've done some things, aquatic animals to be specific.
Right.
But what we're going to be talking about tonight is we're going to be ranking our top 3 favorite when animals attack movies. And we're not doing anything that's so over the top or science fiction. Like, these are realistic type of movies. And yeah, sure, some of them kind of stretch beyond imagination.
So no ass blasters tonight, huh?
Tremors is definitely not going to be on this list. Anything where the animal grows to 50 to 100 feet tall, nothing like that. Like, for example, Lake Placid. I thought about Lake Placid a lot. And because that seems like it's an alligator movie, but the alligator, crocodile, whatever it was, it's like 100 feet. It's so overly sized that it just didn't make sense. But
it could happen, Steven.
I mean, it's possible. Betty White kept feeding it whole cows, so I guess in that instance it could possibly happen. But before we get onto those lists, we run down our typical topics, like what we've recently watched. So Chris, what have you been watching this last week?
All right, man. I think I don't have much. I binged one show on Netflix, and it took a lot of my time this week, a lot of my TV time. So I watched The Blue-Eyed Samurai on Netflix.
Oh, okay.
And it is Netflix's anime, I guess, section that they're starting to push a lot of anime right now, and original Netflix anime, and this is one. And before I started watching it, man, I gave it a couple weeks just to see what other anime enthusiasts were saying about this one, and everybody seemed to like it. Some positive reviews. Of course, nothing's ever going to be perfect like One Piece for anime people, but it's actually really good. The story is super, super compelling. It's this samurai is kind of I would say, a bastard child, and the samurai is out for revenge, and it's a whole revenge story. And there's actually a couple twists and turns at the end that I couldn't predict, and that was very surprising, and it was really cool. Definitely, if you are into anime, you're going to be not surprised by some of the graphics in this one. If you're not so much into anime and you're thinking, "Oh, this is a cool action cartoon that I can sit down and watch with my kids," no, you can't. There is a lot of nudity and sex scenes in this one. So just beware of that if you're wanting to watch it and you're not prepared for that, because I was not.
Yeah. Did your sons
And
watch it with you by mistake or something?
oh no, and
Oh.
I was gonna get my sons to watch it with me. And I was like, oh, let me watch it first, because when you push play
Yeah.
at the top, it says nudity, sex scenes. And I was like,
Mm.
whoa, wait a minute. Let's see how far they go. And they go all the way. Like,
Gather around, kids.
yeah. So, but man, that's about it. It's 8 episodes out, 45-minute episodes
Oh.
a piece. So that took all my time this week. But Blue-Eyed Samurai, man, if you're into anime and feudal Japan,
Mm.
it's all about this one. It's really good.
You mean feudal Japan?
Feudal, not feudal. Feudal. Feudal?
Man, they
Like the
really go
position?
deep. They go
I'm
deep in
telling
that
you.
sexual stuff.
Yes, they do. The fetal position all day.
That's awesome. I did see
Feudal.
that. Feudal Japan.
Feudal.
Like Ninja Turtles 3.
Yes.
You know, I saw that advertised on Netflix. It did look really good, so I'm glad that I heard a positive review, because I don't know anybody else that's watched it, to be honest with you. So this
Connor
is
hasn't talked about it?
no, dude, he's still on Big Brother. That's all he wants to watch in his
Okay.
spare time is Big Brother. He listened to last week's episode where you gave him the shout out to start with season 10, and I guess he said I'll go back after I'm done with the one that he's currently watching. So I said, yeah, maybe I'll watch it with you too. You know, I can watch that. I don't know.
You watch Evil Dick and be happy.
Of course. And so that's all you got, man, was Blue-Eyed Samurai?
That's it, man. And football. And hey, I do have a request from you this week, my friend.
Oh, okay.
Can you lose your fantasy football match for me?
Yeah, you know, I will do my best, but I am the top champion in our league. I've won the most championships, and that just doesn't happen by, giving up and going to the wayside. And get me into the postseason, man, and it gets nasty.
You're playing a ghost team, so you really don't have a chance. It's fine.
I don't even understand any of that. I'm like, what is going on? The mathematics of all this stuff. It's like you need to be Will Hunting to figure all this shit out. I'm like, what? Okay. I don't know.
I'll tell you who has a good grasp on it is Kevin, our friend Kevin.
Our friend Kevin.
Yeah.
Man, it brought back to my attention that he had asked me the other day about coming onto the podcast and talking about, I don't know, Star Wars or something. And I was like, yeah, we'll see. And I completely forgot that we had him on in the first year we did this. Do you remember?
We did.
And I was like,
he did Scream Queens or
something. Like, it was in the first year, and it was like, I think within the first 10 episodes of the show. And I was kind of giving him crap because I was like, I don't know, man. We don't just bring any kind of bum onto this show. And he was like, man, I've been on the show before. I'm like, yeah, okay, Kevin. I mean, you may have fantasized about it. I'm like, oh shit, he really was on the show. So my bad. But yeah, we'll figure out something that we could wedge him back in. If he wins, we should have him on just to celebrate his victory that he probably won't.
God, please don't.
But any other request? I thought you were going to tell me to watch something. I was like, oh, by all means.
Oh, hell no. I just want you to lose this week.
Fair enough. I'll do what I can. I won't start any of my players. I'll just bench them all just for
there
you, Chris.
Go. Appreciate that.
Well, let's see. It's funny, whenever we go through a short turnaround from recording, I have some things that I watched, and then when we haven't recorded in like over a week, then it piles on. So I kind of like having a minimal list for me, because then I could talk about some of this stuff a little bit more. But one of the first things we watched, so yeah, we're back in the Christmas swing of things. Sonia likes to repeat all of our Christmas movies that we start to watch every year, and it's wonderful, all these movies. And so I probably won't bring those up because they're kind of obvious. But we did start, I will talk about any of the new ones that we have started. One of them was It's a Wonderful Knife. And I have to say, Chris, I saw you gave me a negative reaction emoji to my post about it.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of
terrorizing my Christmas movies.
I thought maybe you were just mad that you didn't get to watch it with us or something.
No.
Well,
we already went through horror month. Let it go, Elsa.
And we keep talking about how It doesn't matter. We'll keep it going. All the horror movies will still come. And man, they're making a lot more this year as far as like horror themed Christmas
I
films.
know.
But It's a Wonderful Knife is basically about a girl who kills the serial killer at Christmas time, and a year later, it's just there's been a bad fallout for her. You know, a lot of things have gone wrong with her family, her friends. She lost some of her friends in that initial attack, and she just is in a really dark and depressing place. So then, much like George Bailey on the bridge, she says, "I wish I was never born," and then she wishes on this aurora borealis, basically. So it grants her her wish, and then she's in this situation where, oh well, she never killed the serial killer, so now and she's never existed. So it's like she's seeing how her family is, and she's seeing how the serial killer is still terrorizing her town and all of her friends. And she's in a situation where they don't know who she is. It kind of reminded me of Totally Killer from earlier in October on Prime. You know, that Prime movie. And she's basically trying to stop the killer again. And there's this one girl that is a bit of a social outcast who she befriends, and she helps each other and they help each other. It was actually pretty good, man. I didn't think it was all that bad. The story was pretty good. There's a lot of pretty good emotional moments in that movie. So if you have AMC Plus or Shutter, I would recommend watching It's a Wonderful Knife. And we watched a movie on Netflix called May December. Now, this is the movie with Natalie Portman and Julianne Moore, and it's directed by Todd Haynes, who directed Julianne Moore. This is like their fourth or fifth movie together, and he even got her an Oscar nomination with Far From Heaven. So she's very, prominent with this director. It's the first time Natalie Portman's worked with him, and Sonia had no idea what it was about. So I just put it on. I knew exactly what it was about, but I put it on, and the shock on her face, it was just hilarious. It's like I live
Mhm.
for those moments, when I watch Sonia and the kids react to something big like this.
Yeah.
Dude, this movie's so gross. Basically, and I was so excited because it's two of my all-time favorite actresses, and the first
Right.
time that they're working in a movie together. So I was like, all right, let's do it. Well, apparently, I kind of misread the plot a bit, but the Julianne Moore plays a woman who she has she's married to her husband. He's a really really young guy, and Natalie Portman shows up to their house because she's going to be playing Julianne Moore's character in a movie. So she's doing that whole thing where an actor studies the character that they're going to be playing very meticulously, starts emulating a lot of her behaviorisms and mannerisms. She even has a lisp that she starts talking like this with a lisp a little bit. And basically, even Sonya's like, well, why is she playing her in a movie? Was there some kind of scandal? Bro, yeah, there was a big scandal. Apparently, and this isn't a spoiler, because if you know anything about this movie, you know that it's what it's about. Basically, Julianne Moore started having an affair with this young man when he was in the 7th grade.
Oh my.
Yeah, and it was just like, yeah, exactly, that reaction times 10. And when Sonya was like, oh my god, I thought she knew him, like, because he was her son's friend, and she like fell in love with him. It's just so disturbing. And man, and once that reveal happens, you're just like, this is the most awkward movie I've ever seen in my life. And they have kids together. They have 3 kids together. And when you see him interacting with the kids, like, he looks like their older brother, just because they're
Right.
so much closer in age. And it's just like, oh my god, this is so unsettling. The acting is so good, and the young guy, well, he's not a young guy, he's like in his late 30s, playing the husband or whatever. Man, I wish I had written his name down, but he was so good in this movie, and it really shows just how emotionally crippled everybody becomes when you're in a situation like that. Like the kid, I mean, he grew up with this, and man, it just totally messed him up. And their kids are just, I don't know, man. It was just like a very thought provoking movie. And I think it's loosely based on that Mary Kay Letourneau, that teacher that had an affair with her student or something like that, and then ended up being with her student or something. I don't know. But man, it was pretty rough. But overall, acting was good. What
Charles Melton.
Charles Melton? Yes, that's him. Yeah, yeah. Kudos to him, man. His performance in that movie was pretty solid. Because I don't even know where you go to play something like that,
Mhm.
or how you even begin to approach something like that. But it had a bit of a Black Swan feel to it too. But I mean, overall, it wasn't like I wouldn't say the best movie of the year or anything. The acting was top tier, but other than that, nothing really happens, as much of a fallout for it. Like you'd kind of want something bad to happen to Julianne Moore, but man, it's a crazy movie. Watch
Oh,
the new
I'm gonna
huh?
start it. I'm gonna suggest this one to Tasha, and then I'll record her reaction for you.
Yeah, because that's the best way to do it, man. Because Sonya, if I had told her, Sonya's a good sport, she'll watch anything. But if I told her what it was about, she's like, I don't want to watch that. That's nasty. I don't like that. But
Hmm.
man, just let it let it play out. She'd be like, she was like gasped, like audibly
Yeah.
gasped whenever it was just like revealed that she's like, well,
What?
how would you like it if your wife left you? Because she was
Yeah.
married and has other kids with her husband that's of her age. And so, I mean, it just like wrecked everybody. It like destroyed
Dang.
two families, and her kids are like Natalie Portman's age. So it's just so from her first marriage, and that
Right.
was like the big reveal. Oh, it was JD McCoy's dad from Friday Night Lights. So I already don't like that guy, but I felt bad for him in this. But he was like, well, how would you like it if your wife left you for a 12-year-old basically and told you that she was in love with a 12-year-old? It's like you can't. And when that happened, man, she was just like floored by it. But May December, that's the movie. Watched
Okay.
A24's newest film, Dream Scenario, with Nicolas Cage, and it was pretty good. It wasn't anything groundbreaking and nothing that I think would a lot of people would be discussing. The topic or the plot was pretty interesting. He plays a man, mild mannered, kind of boring professor at a university, and he becomes a bit of a popular he goes viral basically because he's a guy that starts
Hmm.
appearing in so many people's dreams. And like
Okay.
inexplicably, but he's in a lot of people's dreams. He's not really doing anything in the dreams. He's just showing up in all these people's dreams. So he becomes like a little mini celebrity for it. And then he starts to kind of, hey, I'm kind of popular. I'm kind of cool. And then things start to progress in the dreams where people are having like sexual fantasies with him and they want him to play him out. And he's like, oh, no, I'm not. Because he's a really nice, sweet guy. And then
Hmm.
things get really bad whenever they start having dreams of him murdering them in like the most brutal ways possible. And then now he's like getting canceled and he's like, I'm not even doing any of this stuff. And it was a pretty interesting movie. It's kind of odd that Nicolas Cage had never been in an A24 movie before. I thought that was kind of surprising, but I mean, turns out this is the first time, and I thought it was pretty good. Again, definitely not anything like on the top tier level of A24 or anything like that. But there is one more movie I wanted to talk about, but there is another show that I started on Netflix, and thanks to our good friend Podstalgic Peter, he in the Cobra Kai Companion. Well, he started a new podcast called Obliterated Companion, and I asked him, I was like, "What's Obliterated?" He's like, "Oh, it's the new show from the
Netflix
guys,
show,
yeah,
right?
the new Netflix series from the producers of Cobra Kai." So I was like, oh, okay. So I watched the trailer. Dude, it is crazy. And then the show started this last week, and it's only 8 episodes. Dude, it is
Mhm.
insane. It's funny. It's action packed. It's super raunchy. It's super, like, just over the top in every aspect. Basically, it's like the Hangover meets Mission Impossible, right? It's like
Oh, okay.
it has this crew, these special ops, black ops crew that go and get this nuclear weapon out of Las Vegas, and they detain the person responsible for it, or so they think. Apparently, it was part of a bigger plan because that wasn't the real bomb, and the real bomb is still out in Las Vegas somewhere. So but what had happened was that night they were so happy about their success that they just decided to get completely ripped, like
Obliterated.
obliterated. Yeah, and so it plays itself out like 24, the series, where
Hmm.
every episode is like basically 1 hour of the day or the night because they're
Hmm.
still trying to like recollect themselves and just bring themselves together. We're like, no, this is our mission. We can do it. We can do it. And just like mishap after mishap and some success. But man, it's just so funny and definitely not family friendly by any means. But man, I was just watching every episode. I'm thinking, man, this is hilarious. Like, this is so good. Unapologetically good, too. Or not
Nice.
unapologetically good. Unapologetically raunchy, I should say. But dude, I think you should check it out. It's so funny, good
So
action.
it's been in my queue because
Yeah.
I saw the trailer for it,
Hmm.
and it looked really good. And it's
Yeah,
just one of those things that you have to find time when the kids are not around to watch it.
that's
So,
true. Yeah, that is true. I don't know. Maybe they can watch it. It's no big deal.
no, no, no.
But yeah, probably not. And but I know for a fact you would really enjoy it. I think Jeremy, I texted him about it too, and he was like, "Yeah, this is pretty good." I was like, "Yeah, I know."
Oh
That
shit! If you and Jeremy like it, I'm in for.
no, it's more. This is something that I think would be more on par for all of us. It's not like
Okay.
something completely crazy, that only we would really embrace. But
Okay.
um, okay. And then the final movie that I wanted to talk about was Godzilla minus one. Chris, I actually watched this today, earlier this afternoon, and
You and
I,
Connor, right?
we and Connor went, and he loved Godzilla. I mean, we all love Godzilla. I don't know any little kid that didn't love Godzilla growing up. And I have to say, man, after all the movies, like this is the Japanese Toho Godzilla, so this isn't
Right.
in line with any of the newer ones like Godzilla versus Kong or the
Mhm.
new Godzilla and Kong trailer, which came out, which looks cool. This is completely separate from all that. This has to be probably the best Godzilla movie I've ever seen in my life.
Whoa.
And it is probably, if not top three, it is probably my favorite film of the year.
Wow.
Dude, it is a masterpiece. It is so good. I'm probably going to do a review for our Screen Acts. I haven't done one in a while, and people are like, "When
Yeah.
do you do your reviews anymore?" I'm like, "I don't know. I'm too busy doing other stuff." But I'm definitely going to talk more about it in the review. But for our Screen Addicts listeners, I have to tell you, you've got to go see this movie. It's subtitled, which I preferred. I told Connor, I said, if it's dubbed, I'm not going. I can't watch dubbed anymore. I need the subtitles. So it was subtitled, and it's set in post World War II Japan, right? So it's during wartime. It's from the military perspective, and it centers around this main character who was a kamikaze pilot who basically chickened out. And that's a terrible thing to say, he chickened out. It's like, yeah, because kamikaze pilots were suicide bombers. Like that was their plan, to go down with the ship to destroy something for what, some kind of minimal attack on something. And but he panicked and he kind of went off course. Well, he ends up on this island, right? And this is where he sees Godzilla for the first time. And it's over a span of like 6 or 7 years too. So when Godzilla first shows up, he's kind of small. He's not very like Godzilla-y. And
Baby Godzilla.
pretty much. And so, I mean, he's still tall, but he's like thin. And we're like,
Mhm.
wow, he's kind of a slimmed up Godzilla in this movie. Well, he kills all these other people and he survives again. So he's got such bad survivor's remorse. And then he ends up in this small little village in his home where he used to live. And he befriends a woman who has a baby. And basically, she just like invites herself into his home, this little like square shack, right? And she has a baby. It's not even her baby, and he ends up basically they become like, they're not romantically entangled, but they end up raising the kid together. He lets her stay there. There is an attraction there, but he's so messed up. Like it deals so much with PTSD and stuff like that. And but man, I think what really made this movie so good was the human character development, like the story with the humans, rather than, and yes, it does deliver on Godzilla action as well. If you want him destroying buildings and stuff, he does it. But I was thinking like, man, that's what's missing from the American Godzilla movies, is that there's not a lot of human emotion, not a lot of depth in that realm. So you can't really feel for the human characters. You don't really care what happens to them because you're not emotionally invested to them. Unlike this
Mhm.
movie where you are so invested in these three people and this new like blended or formed family. And dude, I freaking cried in a Godzilla movie. I
What?
cried. There's so many moments in this movie where it was so sad, and I I just it's so good. And I think having it look, or having it set in World War II, 1940s, giving it that kind of aesthetic, I think that makes it even more polished. And the fact that the movie only costs like $15 million, US dollars is just baffling to me, man.
Wow.
That makes me think like, God, what do we spend $200 million on for our American movies? Like somebody's just getting some fat checks. Like that's all I can suggest, because if that movie only cost this movie looked like it was a $200 million movie, but it only cost 15 million American. So I don't know
Damn.
what to say to that. But if even if you're not a Godzilla fan, I still suggest you would watch this movie just because of how good the acting is and how good the storyline is. And the final sequence where they plan to trap Godzilla or destroy Godzilla, I was like so fired up, man. And some things are a bit predictable, but they're predictable in a way that you want it to be, or that's what you hope happens. And in some cases it may or may not. But man, I highly recommend Godzilla minus one. Best movie I've seen all year. Best Godzilla
Nice.
movie of all time, next to Godzilla 1998. By the way,
Of
you know what?
course.
I'm going to go ahead and say it right now. I'm sick and tired of people talking so much trash about the Matthew Broderick Godzilla movie. I like it. I might even love that movie. I don't give a damn what anybody says. I thought it was entertaining. Yes, it was 2.5 hours long, but it was following up. Roland Emmerich was following up Independence Day with it. I thought Godzilla was fun, and even the stupid baby Zillas in Madison Square Garden was entertaining to me. But
Hey, I love that soundtrack.
dude, yes, thank you. Yes, that soundtrack is amazing, and there's so many good songs in that. How many
Mm-hmm.
times did you hear the Wallflowers covering Heroes that summer? Man, it was like all over the place.
Yep.
And I did love how Godzilla 98 was basically going toe to toe with Armageddon. Man, they were like going head to head with that. Even the soundtracks, like you had Aerosmith versus like literally everybody else on the Godzilla soundtrack. But man, I don't know. And I do get the negative criticism for that movie. It is pretty
Oh yeah.
goofy, but man, I love that movie. I don't know, but I guess also because Godzilla, like the American version in that time, they had to make him look like he was real buff. He was like
He
real
was
thin
he
and
was
buff.
roided out,
Yeah,
bro.
he was. But I did like how the newer Godzilla with Bryan Cranston, Aaron Johnson, and Elizabeth Olsen, like they brought him back to look more like how Godzilla looked. But I was thinking,
Yeah.
well, if we're remaking Godzilla from our perspective, then maybe we should make him look a little bit different from the Japanese version, because then you still have the Japanese version. But I don't
Yeah.
know. Anyway, so Godzilla minus one, highly, highly recommend it. And I think that's all I watched, man, so far this last week. So if you don't have anything else, man, I guess it's on the headlines. Really, the only headline that I had in this short week in between recording was, and it's pretty big news, like Marvel's still trying to find its footing. The Marvels was a flop, certified flop, and everybody was saying, well, you've got to bring Robert Downey Jr. back into the fold. Iron Man's got to come back. Well, Kevin Feige himself has said, nope, we're not bringing Robert Downey Jr. back, and Iron Man is not going to come back from the dead. Anything that we would try to do to make it happen would seem forced. And at this point, people know that it's like out of desperation. So it's
Oh
just not
yeah.
going to happen. And I think that's probably for the best. And Deadpool 3, I think, is finally finished filming. So personally, if they really want something to get sparked up again, just set the rocket to Ryan Reynolds and Deadpool, man. Just let him do
Oh
what he
yeah.
does. Because so far, everything that I've seen from Deadpool 3 and all of the new announcements that they keep making, I am so excited to see that movie. It's going to be so good. Just the fact that Hugh Jackman's coming back as Wolverine, you're going to have Deadpool and Wolverine. It's going to be so good. They even have Jennifer Garner as Elektra coming back, man. Just like all the things
Yeah.
that they could possibly do. And then I did read another announcement that Daphne Keene, who played X-23 in Logan, the daughter, she's coming
Mm-hmm.
back to be in
Wow.
Deadpool. So, dude, they're stacking this movie up, and I'm just more and more excited about it. And it seems crazy that Deadpool 2 came out like 5 years ago. Like it seems crazy how long it's been, but
Well, they got to get it done right, especially now that everybody is talking crap on Marvel.
yeah.
They're like, okay, we have this one character left that we haven't just fucking beat the shit out of.
Right.
So So let's do it right.
Mm-hmm.
Take our time and do it like they used to do.
Yeah.
So hopefully it's done right, because if there's one franchise in the Marvel universe that I don't mind watching, it'd be the Deadpool for sure.
Do you like Deadpool? You like the first two, right?
I like the first two. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's Ryan Reynolds. It's hard to hate anything he's
Yeah.
in, so.
I don't know. Mint Mobile sucks. I'm just kidding. I don't even have it. I do like those commercials though.
Aviation Gin sucks.
Yeah. Man, that dude's just failing at life, isn't he? Oh, let's not mention his
Telling
wife.
you. Yeah.
How embarrassing.
And how
But
his wife is like best friends with Taylor Swift now.
yeah. But I guess as far as I'm looking here, like with headlines, that's all I had written down. Do you have anything that you read or wanted to share that you came
Man,
across? Any news or
I
anything?
I don't have anything, man. Short
It,
week, like you said.
it's quiet. I think there was some announcements for one of the award shows because award season's gearing up. It pretty much starts in
Mm-hmm.
January. I think I know one of the award shows had some nominations, but we'll figure out what that was and then we'll post it. Man, we're quite the journalists on this episode.
Telling you.
All the president's men over here.
We know all the things.
Well,
But
I
we're
guess
like the Secret Service this time. We can't say.
yeah, it's classified. We know a lot of shit, but we're just not telling you because it's too classified. We
That's
don't
right.
want to be in breach of our what do they when they drop news too early or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But well, I guess that's going to take us into our main topic. And as I had mentioned earlier in the episode, we were talking about when animals attack. Do you remember that show when animals attack?
Animals Attack, yes.
Dude, what was that on? Wasn't that like on Fox or something? It was like an hour long and it would talk about like survivors of certain incidents that transpired. Man, that was a really crazy show. I can't remember. I think it was on Fox. I'm pretty sure it was on
The
Fox.
after school program or something.
It could be that too. Like, oh, stay away from, giant bears
Alligators.
and alligators. Yeah, no shit. But in that vein, we are, like I said, going to be mentioning our top three with honorable mentions if you have any. So, Chris, if you want to kick us off with your top three when animals attack movies.
Yes. And so my number three, it comes from a fear that something that happened in my life, not necessarily to me, but it happened to a close family member of mine, my uncle Rudy. He had gotten bit by a brown recluse.
Ooh.
And so he got really close to losing his life to this bite. So it was always a joke to him about we'd go watch Arachnophobia. And he's like, hell no, what are you thinking? And it'd be funny. There'd be times that he'd come in the house and I actually had like the DVD or the tape. And I'd put it on like just behind his back, real like subtle. And then it'd be on the TV and he'd be like, what the hell are you watching? I'm like, your friends.
Yeah.
So that is why the biggest reason why this is my number three, Arachnophobia, man. It's creepy, you got the creepy crawlies. Definitely spiders are real and they can attack
Yeah.
like this. So and John Goodman, man. You can't beat Dan Connor, bro.
That's the king, baby. King Ralph. You're right about Arachnophobia. There's some genuine suspense in that movie because, like you said, and you want to talk about something like Eight-Legged Freaks. That doesn't count because that's so like B movie schlock. Like it's over the top.
Right.
Don't get me wrong, I love that movie, but again, you're keeping it realistic in the most realistic sense.
Yes.
And everything in Arachnophobia, man, like. But man, it's dialed up quite a bit. Like in the popcorn when they're eating, and then it comes out of their mouth whenever. Oh no, that's nasty.
But see, oh man, I can. Yes, as far fetched as it kind of is, like you can actually say, that shit could happen.
Oh sure.
So in the vein of us keeping it realistic, like that's my number three is Arachnophobia. And John Goodman, like I said before, John Goodman, like he does John Goodman things, and his little sometimes overacting, but it's where it's meant to be.
Of course. I went down this like Roseanne well on YouTube the other day, where I was like watching Dan Connor's like greatest hits. I don't even know
Yeah,
why, man, but he's so funny in that show, and that's such a you know when I'm done with Frasier, I think I'm gonna go back and watch Roseanne because I'm still watching that too. There's like 15 seasons of it, but um,
dude.
that
I remember doing a rewatch of Roseanne, and
mhm.
it's great. I love that show up until they start doing some weird shit to where they like win the lottery and
Oh yeah,
have a baby at the age of 56 or some shit like that. I'm like, come on,
Chris, you
man.
don't want to have a baby in your 50s? Come on,
Hell,
man.
I don't want to have a baby in my 40s right now.
Right?
No.
Yeah, that is crazy. I mean, I bet they had spiders in there too, you know.
I'm sure they did.
But yeah, Arachnophobia, good 3. My
Mhm.
my number 3 is a newer movie, and that would be Crawl. And I bumped this one
Mm.
up to the top 3 because honestly, that's a good movie. I think it's really suspenseful. And not only did it deal with alligators, it deals with hurricanes, two things of which we have a lot of personal experience with, especially living here in Panama City with Hurricane Michael and stuff. But Crawl, if nobody's ever seen it, I highly recommend you watch it. It's super good. And basically, there's a hurricane, and the main character is this young college student played by Kea Scolodario who decides to go back and help her father because I think he's like missing his legs or something, but he's trapped in his house. So she goes to his house, and he's like stuck in the crawl space under the house. But then there's like all these alligators, these big ass alligators, like hiding out in the crawl space, so she has to go in, navigate around all those alligators to get her dad out, and then to find safety somewhere. And they got to get into dude. It's just so good. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I always think like alligators. They say that if they've eaten for the day, they won't hurt you. If they've already eaten once, they won't eat you again. Which okay, well I don't know if they've eaten or not, so I'm not going to go anywhere near them. But
There's not a sign that says, I've eaten
full,
lunch. You're okay.
yeah, no gauge that says empty or full. But just playing into the whole alligator thing, I think that it was really well done. None of them were like super powered or doing anything too crazy. I know there's a couple of scenes in there where it's like, okay, you gotta suspend disbelief a bit, but overall, man, that's a pretty good suspenseful film, and that's Crawl. Did you see Crawl?
I have seen that movie, and
Yeah,
yeah, I'm with you, man. Like it's along the lines of that shit could really happen, and
yeah,
I've never even been in a hurricane like you have.
yeah.
I mean, we have land hurricanes here and
Oh
shit,
shit.
but
Yeah, those whopping 20-mile-per-hour gusts.
that's right. Uh, but
Speaking of
it.
Kevin, that
Speaking of Kevin
son
and
of a
his land
bitch.
hurricanes, um, but it's something that like I could imagine happening. It just alligators like just coming up and just fucking hungry, and I
Yeah.
can get to places like I hadn't gotten before. So let's go see what's new.
I'm just glad we weren't closer to the water because if we were, I mean, that's the situation. It's like these homes become submerged in these walls of
Mhm.
water, and that's where like sharks and alligators are swimming through, and that's how they're getting
Yep,
into your house. And no, hell no.
that's how you get a Sharknado.
Yeah, exactly. Which is highly believable too, by the way. Um, I'll go ahead and do up my number 2, and my
Okay.
second pick is the Saint Bernard, the rabid Saint Bernard. That is Cujo. It's a classic, Stephen
Oh
King
yeah.
classic, and Dee Wallace and her son Danny Patillo are stuck in the Pinto, and because they can't get out. Cujo's, like I said, he was bitten by a bat, so he's got just full blown rabies. All it does is want to maim and kill. And it was funny that Dee Wallace shared this. I guess it was a reel or a TikTok where her daughter, her oldest daughter, came dressed as her, and her son was dressed as the little boy, and they had a little dog dressed up like Cujo for Halloween this year. And I was like, oh man, that's good stuff. But you can't. I don't know anybody our age that doesn't refer to a Saint Bernard as either Beethoven or Cujo, and
Oh,
and
absolutely.
even as a reference point. Have you ever see like a mad rabid dog, or you see a dog that's just like super aggressive and you're like, damn, what's wrong with that? That dog's like Cujo. Like Cujo is always like the first go to when you think of a bad dog,
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
We even call Jet Cujo sometimes because she just won't stop barking about something. Like, damn, lighten up, Cujo, you know? But it's just such a. I don't think anybody would ever be foolish enough to name their dog Cujo at this point, but I'm sure it happens. But yeah, that's my number two. Huh?
Man, I love. I haven't seen that movie in so long, but yeah, I think about it, and I'm like, man, when I watched that movie for the very first time, I kind of remember like, oh shit, can this really happen to dogs?
Oh yeah.
Like, I don't want dogs anymore because they're gonna eat me, and it puts a fear into you, and that's kind of like these earlier movies, these 80s 90s movies, like somewhat more realistic. Now now you get the movies like we get now, these over elaborated attack movies, and like, that can't happen, oh, it's fine, it's not gonna do nothing, and so it's just like, but then you go back and arachnophobia,
Mhm.
Cujo, like, it gets scary, man. You can develop real fears from these, I think.
Yeah, or worse, you could end up being Travis and having to put down old Yeller yourself. That
Oh,
was
he was
pretty
my
grim.
yeller.
Pretty
It
grim.
is.
Do you remember that movie in the early '90s with Lance Hendrickson and Ali Sheedy called Man's Best Friend? I don't know
I
if you
don't.
that kind of reminded me of that what you were saying, where this dog is like genetically modified, so it's like it has these super human traits and it can do these weird things. I think it's a Rottweiler basically, and Ali Sheedy takes it in, but it's like a lab dog, and then it starts killing people in like super brutal ways. And I was thinking, you see, like it's trying to be over the top, like you were saying, like it has to have a gimmick now. And even though
Mm-hmm.
that was in the '90s, but I see what you mean about more modern day movies. It's like they have to have some kind of like superpower or some kind of elevated sense
Right.
of awareness of how it behaves. And Man's Best Friend was like that. I was like, it's basically like a robot dog gone mad, you know. And I'm like, nah, you
Mm-hmm.
don't need to do all that. Cujo was good enough, man. That's
Right.
all you needed to do. But yeah, so your number
Cool.
two pick, please.
My number two is the movie as Ice Cube's pinnacle, and that is Anaconda.
Oh yeah,
uh, John Voight and J Lo and Ice Cube, just the best cast you could ever have
Owen
in the
Wilson
movie.
too, right? Isn't Owen
Owen
Wilson? Yeah,
Wilson, yes.
early role for him.
And yes, I get it. Anaconda, you see a huge snake, you're like, that could never be how it really is. But there's some big fucking snakes out there,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
And so, yes, this could be a realistic anaconda that's this huge, like tearing down boats. Well, not really a boat, maybe a
It's
little
like, well,
raft.
it could definitely swallow a person whole. It could wrap a person up with
Yes.
no problem. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But I do, when I was doing our research for these picks, I was like, man, I remember watching this movie and thinking, shit, this movie seems like it's forever long.
Yeah.
And it's not really that long.
It's like 85 minutes or
Yeah.
something.
But oh man, I guess it was the crush on J-Lo back then. Oh, you gotta watch her. She's gonna be in a tank top in the water. It's fine, you know? And then, oh shit, Ice Cube's in it? Yeah, this is gonna be gold. And then this big snake just comes and fucks everybody up.
Yeah, even the sequel, The Hunt for the Blood Orchid, I thought was okay. It didn't have anybody from the first movie in it, so it's just kind of like, oh, and it was anacondas, plural, because there was more than one. But I
Mm-hmm.
haven't seen Anaconda in such a long time, man. It has been so long since I watched that. And then John Voight had that weird accent in the movie, and he's like, "Ah, nah, nah." And I'm like, what the hell? He's like, it did this to my face. I'm like, well, that sucks. But
They probably fucked up your vocal cords too, but
right, it
we
squeezed
won't
that up.
talk about that.
And also spoilers, like when the anaconda like spits him out or whatever after, I guess, swallowing him, I don't know, and then he winks at you. Oh my gosh, it's so cheesy. But man, I'm gonna watch that soon. I think, this is gonna be the movie that every week I'll think about a movie that you talk about, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna watch that. I think Anaconda is gonna be the one, dude. Honestly, I haven't seen it in 15 years at
It's
least.
been a while.
It's been a long time since I watched that movie. I think because
Mhm.
my memory of it when I saw it in the theaters was like, this is really stupid. But yeah, that's I'm gonna rewatch that for sure. But that's a good pick. I mean, that's a fan favorite. It's a cult classic too.
Yeah, it definitely is. Like, uh, I do know a lot of people like, oh, Anaconda's so good, and I'm like, did we watch the same Anaconda?
Right.
Because it's a shit movie, but I mean, it's one of those that you still have to watch it.
That reminds me, another article I saw that's gonna give me nightmares. It's like apparently there's a Burmese pythons over here now. Like giant Burmese
Oh,
pythons are in the Florida Everglades. Dude, there's a guy on TikTok. I don't know how this dude's still alive, for one, but he's like the Florida Everglade man. I don't know his handle. I'll send it to you because you've got to watch some of the stuff that he does. And he's
no, then it'll end up in my algorithm, and I don't want
yeah.
to watch all of that shit.
I'm gonna send you everything that I get. It's either that or Matthew Perry memorial videos. I'm really gonna mess with you,
My
but
shit's still flooded with all that, man. I'm like,
man,
let me mourn, let me get over it.
man, some of those edits are pretty good though. I'm like, okay, now I'm like sad
Yeah.
because I should have done this one. But yeah, this Florida Everglade man, he walks around the Everglades like just willy nilly, just picking up shit, looking at stuff, and I'm like, how
Jeez.
are you alive, bro? Like this is insane. Anyway, so yeah, okay, you're number two. I'm gonna go through some honorable mentions here, and
Hmm.
we did confirm before, so I won't be saying your number one pick like last time. But
Yeah.
one movie that I happen to love, and I didn't put it on my list because it isn't the main focus of the story, but that's The Edge with Anthony Hopkins and Alec Baldwin, where they're in the wilderness and their plane crashes in the I guess they're in the Alaskan wilderness or something, and they're being stalked by this giant grizzly bear. And Anthony Hopkins is like a genius, and there's some drama with Alec Baldwin sleeping with his wife or in love with his wife, played by Elle McPherson, but they have to survive the elements and survive the bear. I love The Edge. It's a great movie. Orca, it's orca whale gone crazy. Alligator and Alligator 2. Alligator 2 is pretty bad, but Alligator was this one that I watched on Prime a couple of months ago, and I hadn't seen it since I was a little kid. But basically, it's like the whole theory of if you get a pet alligator and you flush it down the toilet, like in New York City, it's stuck in like in the sewer system, and then it grows because it's feeding on all the shit that's in the sewer. And so this alligator like grows to this massive size in the New York sewer. That one's pretty good. Talked about Lake Placid, Piranha, you know, even Snakes on a Plane. I thought, yeah, that's and it makes sense why they're so aggressive. They talked about spraying those lays with all those pheromones and stuff, so it makes the
Yeah.
snakes overly aggressive. So I thought, yeah, that one's pretty fun. Bats with Lou Diamond Phillips. Do you remember that movie? It's so stupid.
Oh my gosh.
Dude, there was this one from 1999. It was like a direct to DVD movie or a direct to tape movie called Komodo. And it dealt with this guy who was attacked by like a Komodo dragon when he was little. And of course, it's pretty big anyway, but it's a lot bigger in the movie. And he has to go back as an adult to face this fear of that Komodo dragon with this therapist. And then the Komodo dragon like kills the therapist. And then he's like stuck fighting it. It's so cheesy and bad, but I don't even I'm certain it's on Tubi. I bet you money
Oh yeah.
Komodo is on Tubi, and I highly recommend nobody watch it. But yeah, I guess it's all for my honorable mentions. Did you have any honorable mentions?
Oh, I'm surprised, man. You don't have your boy in the newer film in your honorable mention
Oh,
list.
Beast, right? With
Yeah,
Idris
with
Elba. Yeah,
Idris Elba.
that's true. Yeah, I mean that perfectly applies.
Yep.
That also reminds me of The Ghost in the Darkness with Michael Douglas and Val Kilmer, where they're hunting the African lions. That one
Oh
was really
yeah,
good.
yeah.
But yeah, Beast was actually pretty good movie. I was pretty entertained by that. Some of it, obviously, you're like, I don't know about that, but okay, it's for fun.
And then the box office hit was it this year, Cocaine
Oh,
Bear.
Cocaine Bear, yeah, yeah, that's definitely on the list. Um, it gets amped up a little bit, but what can you do? It's on cocaine; it can't help
It's on.
itself.
That's right. I mean,
um,
it doesn't make him grow bigger,
no, no,
so
no, we're super strong. I mean, it's already strong. It's a bear. But yeah, that's a good point. Those are two movies this year too. That's funny. Um,
Mhm.
and When Animals Attack are making a comeback. But
Realistic animals, yes.
those are good honorable mentions. Do you have any more or anything?
Nope.
Okay, well, I'll do my number one because it's kind of basic and it's kind of obvious. It's
Of
Jaws.
course.
It's the greatest movie, one of the greatest movies ever made. It's one of my all-time favorite movies, and of course,
Mhm.
sharks. You would have thought a kid from Texas. I'm like, I'm never gonna have to worry about sharks in the water, and here I am living in Panama City Beach, Florida.
Yeah.
But you never know what the stars align for you. But yeah, Jaws. It's an easy pick. That's why I'm gonna go ahead and just throw it out there. It's not a surprise to anybody, but it's
No,
my favorite
absolutely not.
animal attack movie. All right, so what
All
do you
right.
have for your number one?
So my number one is probably not the most gruesome, probably not the most scary to a lot of people, but if you know me, you know I have a mortal fear of birds. And this is why my number one pick is Alfred Hitchcock's Birds.
Yeah.
That movie scares the shit out of me. And I didn't even watch it until I developed this fear of birds.
Oh, it wasn't because of the movie or
No,
anything.
it wasn't because of
Okay.
the movie. Okay, and the reason for this fear of birds is when I was young, I was walking down the street. I was going to my cousin's house or something, and this big pterodactyl hawk thing just starts swooping and just dive bombing my head. So I'm running down the street, man, trying to get away, and it just keeps coming after me. And I'm like, no, bird, no. And I get into my cousin's house, and like I'm out of breath because I'm running. And my cousin Valerie, I went to her house, and she's like, what are you gonna do? I was like, I'm not going back outside. She's like, no, you, I had something to go do. And so she's like, well, we got these tennis rackets right here. So I finished my journey to the school, I guess, wherever the hell I'm going. I forget where I'm going. But I have these tennis rackets above my head just in case this bird comes back. Oh man. And after that, dude, like birds just scare the shit out of me. No matter how big, how small, they just scare me. And so one day, I think it was another one of my cousins. They're like, "Hey, I got a movie for us to watch." I was like, "Okay, cool." Alfred Hitchcock's Birds, and I have nightmares probably for like 2 weeks straight because of this movie. And it's not just like one or two birds; it's huge ass flocks of birds, and
Right.
they're just and it's Alfred Hitchcock. I mean,
Hmm.
he master suspense and scary shit. So I mean, he even makes the smallest little bird scary as hell. And yep, it was scary. And I think I've only ever watched that movie one time in my life, and that's all it'll ever be.
Yeah.
So,
Not to step on my other or to preview my other podcast, Real Problems, but The Birds is actually on my list of movies to discuss about real problems because the actress Tippi
mm-hmm.
Hedren, she's gone through and she's even done some interviews recently as far as when her book came out about how Alfred Hitchcock was he's kind of an asshole, you know, and he was basically like, if you don't have sex with me, I'm going to ruin your career. And he basically got her blackballed because of it. And there was a scene
Jeez.
in The Birds where she's in the phone booth, right? And
Mm-hmm.
some of them, I mean, obviously they're all live birds, but how they're filmed, like they digitally impose them onto the film, but some of them are real around the actors. And in the telephone booth scene, they're in there and they scratch at her face. She got scarred up in the face a little bit because of that. And that was like a huge deal because, you know, they got mad at her that she got cut because she, you know, Tippi Hedren's real pretty. And so they're like, you
Mm-hmm.
just cut your face, you're our star. And Hitchcock got mad at her because the damn, I mean, how are you going to control that? You're like getting them fired up and aggressive, and then you throw a couple of live ones into this phone booth with her, and they cut her. Like, what do you want her to do? And so that was kind of a bit of a controversial moment for that movie. But yeah, that is a good movie though. It's a really good classic horror film. And you know, I think that movie that I mentioned before, Bats, like they were trying to recreate something like that. You know, it's like these high flying rodents, you know,
Mm-hmm.
attacking people and stuff. But it didn't come off very well. But you know, you can't really copy Hitchcock. I mean, for all of
Oh
his
no.
personal faults, he still is considered one of the masters of suspense for a good reason, you know, and that is a good movie. I haven't seen The Birds in a really long time. I should probably rewatch that one too. I'm gonna have Anaconda and then The Birds. Man, I was like worried. I thought like, and what's the saying? Like, if a bird takes a shit on you, that's good luck. Isn't
Good
that the?
luck.
I don't get how that's good luck. But okay, I would think that was kind of bad. But I don't know. We'd have to figure out how that equates to something like that.
You should test it. Just go stand underneath a tree one time
You know, there's this
for all
bridge
day.
that me and Sonia walk, and we cross under this telephone wire, you know, and there's always so many birds on that wire, right? And I think, man, how have we not been shit on before? Like, this is kind of incredible. But I'll take a picture of it and show you all the birds, you know.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
No problem. Um, yeah, I guess, you know, irrational fears are always good, you know, triggers for movies. So that makes
Oh
sense.
yeah.
I'm just glad they've never made a capybara movie because to hell with that. Just oversized rodents, man. They're unnatural. They freak me out. And yeah, they're cuddly. You can swim with them in a pool. Bullshit. That's part of their plot. Capybaras. That's actually a good idea for a movie. I'm going to make a movie about an evil capybara. It's like a social awareness picture that I'm
There
trying to
you
do
go.
here.
Hey, and speaking of like oversized rodents and that, I know you lived in New York area. Is it true about some of them rats there?
Yes. Jumbo
Yeah.
sized sewer rats, I believe, are the expression. When you're in the subway and you know, trains going by, you can look down in the tracks at any point. Hell, you don't even have to look in the tracks. You can just see around. They're not all over the place or anything like that,
Mm-hmm.
but when you see some, dude, they're pretty big, man. They're pretty nasty.
Yeah.
And luckily in the condo that I lived at, I never had any kind of infestation like that, thank God, because
Mm-hmm.
no, man, I don't mess with rats.
Would have been done.
No, you know that? Did you ever watch that documentary Rats? It's
No.
it was on. Okay, I don't know if it's still on Netflix. That's where we watched
It's
it.
on Tubi.
I'm pretty sure, but I'm gonna see if I could find it because you've got to see it, man. It is so disgusting, and the rat
Mm-hmm.
population. They're saying that now New Orleans, Louisiana, has the highest population of rats. Like it takes over New York, which I found quite surprising. I think it's Tulane University where they do a study about it. And I guess because once the levees broke and all that stuff, I don't know how it created this, but like in New York, you're on an island, man. So obviously all
Mm-hmm.
the life like that has to migrate inwards because they're not going to go jump into the water. But I don't
Right.
know. I'll have to send you that documentary. That documentary
Yeah.
is so nasty. And they even talk about how they go to Thailand and the rat population there, but they eat them and it shows them cooking them as delicacies.
I've seen like
Mm.
street food. They're on skewers and seen that.
So
Seen
nasty,
that.
man. Like a rat burger and
Ugh.
Demolition Man.
Ooh.
But
That
yeah,
works. Cool. Anything else before we close out, my friend?
I don't think so, man. I'm gonna have some weird
Uh,
dreams tonight.
I'm telling you, I'm reliving this birds thing, and it's gonna be a long night.
You know what? Forget the alligator stuff. I'm gonna send you bird TikToks.
Asshole.
Talking birds. Wow, Chris! I bet that bird that
Jeez.
attacked you even was calling you by your name.
Pretty sure it was an escaped pterodactyl from fucking Jurassic Park.
The Lost World. You know, I wonder what kind of bird it was. You know, it was probably like a tiny pigeon, but in your mind, you've like elevated
It was
it.
not a tiny pigeon. This thing had talons, bro. I'm telling you. It had like claws. It tried to pick me up.
You've manifested this giant eagle, Sam the eagle, coming after you.
It's what it was,
I
dude.
believe you,
I'm
man.
telling you.
I believe you. I'm not trying to diminish your trauma.
I'm not even gonna be able to get through the closing now. Thanks, Steven.
The Birdman.
Bird bean. Oh, it was Keaton coming after me.
Larry Bird bouncing a basketball off your head.
Jeez. All right. Before we go completely off the rails, guys, thank you so much for listening to another crazy ass episode of the Screen Addicts podcast. We're so glad you're here. Whether you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, hopefully we even hit your Spotify top 5 in your year in review. Amazon, wherever you're listening to us, thank you so much. And go ahead, hit the subscribe button while you're here so you can get notified every time we drop a new episode. And then also leave us a 5-star review. That just helps us get seen a little bit more in the podcast land. We'd really, really appreciate all that. As well as all the social media networks. Just go and search for us, whether it's on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or X. Just look up the Screen Addicts podcast, look for our podcast art, and we will be there. Then go back to Facebook and look up the Screen Addicts Fanatics. That is our private group where we are always active and dropping trailers and movie news and TV news and all the secret stuff that we can't really say on the show. We'll probably put it over there as far as headlines and new stuff goes. But follow us there. We'd love for you to be a fanatic. What?
I'm sorry, man. I
What?
just keep thinking about the birds.
What?
I sent you a
Damn you!
I sent you a beautiful gift.
I'm sure you did. Sure you did.
I'm sorry, man. That's just I never knew this about you.
You never? I thought you did.
No, I definitely would have been making fun of you a long time ago if I did. But yeah,
great.
I mean, hey, like I said, you don't like birds. I don't like capybaras. What can you do, man?
Shit.
Sorry.
Anyway, yeah. And I'm sure there's no gift for no capybaras either.
You'd be surprised. You know, this is also a good opportunity to mention that if you go to betterhelp.com/screenaddicts, you can pick out your own personal therapist, get 10% off, and you can talk to them about your bird problem.
I'll probably need to do that after this episode, 100%. Or I'll just listen to your new podcast, Real Problems, and be like, you know what, those fuck them birds and Alfred Hitchcock, he was an asshole.
Yeah.
So, all right, back to the closing. Anyway, if you have any questions, comments, or if you want to be part of the show, you can always email us as well at screenaddictspodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you, and we'd read any fan mail or anything on the show as well. But as for me, I think that does it tonight. Thank you very much, and good night.
Adios, amigos.